Welcome to Universal Man, where we turn your flight into fight so that you can master yourself and conquer your goals. My name is Mark Weppett, and I'm here to help you sharpen your masculine edge so that you can cut through the resistance holding you back from becoming a man that you admire. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how hard should you push yourself. If you don't push yourself hard enough, well, you're not really going to get anything done, okay? But if you push yourself too hard, you're going to bankrupt yourself. You're going to bankrupt your willpower and you're going to collapse and you're just going to fall back into the exact same patterns. And we don't want this to happen, right? We want to be able to create real, sustainable, lasting change, and we want you to reach your goals. So learning how to strike the proper balance here is imperative for any guy who's looking to be their best self. This question was inspired by our buddy Nick, who shot me an email. And here's what he said. Thank you for your videos. They've been incredibly uplifting, encouraging, and motivating. He's now leading a NoFap group in his dorm where him and 4 other guys meet weekly and discuss what they've been learning, and they often cite my videos along with other resources. He wanted to ask if I could do a topic on rest. I'm about to graduate college next month, which is obviously a pretty unique time of rapid change. Myself and a couple of close friends are making some big changes in our lives for self-improvement. And I always have to question in the back of my mind, when is it okay to rest? When can I take a break? How much change is too much in a short period of time? How much grace should I allow myself versus how hard should I push myself? And this is a really cool question because, this is something that I'm always wondering too. And so, I never really kind of nailed down a system for it until today, until I took the time to really think about it for a while. And I'm excited to share what I came up with. So the first thing I think you need to break down is whether you're trying to engage in a real lifestyle change or if you're just engaging in a kind of temporary challenge, okay? And so here's how I would contrast the two, all right? So a real lifestyle change would be something that you want to kind of keep up indefinitely. All right. It's something that, you want to have a part of your life that you just want to be kind of your baseline. You just, it's the way that you operate, your core habit level. Okay. And this is different from engaging in some kind of temporary challenge where you're really focused on something and you put a lot of energy into it, but it's just for a temporary period of time. Okay. And so some good examples would be, your study schedule for studying for like final exams versus your typical study schedule throughout the semester, okay? They're going to probably look different. Chances are, when exams come rolling around, you're going to ramp up that intensity, but, you're not going to maintain it, right? That's going to be a temporary state. And then after, you finish your exams and then you have a big break, right? But, if you're trying to come up with a general study habits, you want that to be more reasonable. You still need it to be strong and well ordered, but you don't want it to be so much that it completely burns you out and distracts you from other things that are truly important in your life. Another example would be around fitness. Okay, so like if someone is in a bodybuilding competition, or they're going to do a powerlifting meet, or a marathon, or a Tough Mudder, or whatever the heck you're into, training for that is going to look different than your year-round training. Okay, one is going to be more intense, and it's going to ramp up, and you're going to have your event, and then you're going to ease off. The other is going to be something that you keep spinning. And this is a really important distinction to make because your life is going to ask these things of you, like they're going to ask you to choose between these things, and you have to be intelligent about the way that you approach it, because if you're applying the wrong strategies for one of these changes, then you're not going to get the results you're looking for. So first, let's look at that temporary challenge sort of scenario, okay? And the question is, how hard should you push yourself for one of these things? Let's say that, you're doing, since as a college guy, clearly who asked this, I'll put it in terms of studying for final exams or something like that, okay? Basically, for a challenge, you want to aim high enough to equally excite and scare you. Okay, so it's like you want to make sure that you're aiming at something that's really good, because it's going to take a lot of energy. You need to be motivated. You need to see the goodness in it and be pumped to pursue it. Okay, so it's got to be exciting, but you want to aim high enough to the point where it's a little bit scary. Okay, and this is actually, I think, technically important. It needs to be challenging because That's what's going to excite your stress response. And stress isn't all bad, as I've talked about in my other videos. You actually need stress. Stress is actually a very, very useful biological adaptation that you have, because it gives you access to a lot of energy and power and focus, okay? So you need to turn that stress mechanism on. Now, you need to have a good plan, okay? You need to have a clear plan and something that's pretty reasonable and something that you think you can follow through with, because that's the feasibility of it is what's going to allow you to go into fight mode, where you're really fighting for that goal, versus a flight mode where you're running from it, okay? Because if you pick something too big and too hard, and all it does is instigate anxiety in you, and makes you fearful, makes you worried, it makes you like just crazy stressed out of your mind, well, that's not useful. That's just gonna wear you down real quick, and you're gonna run from it, and you're gonna hate your life and that sort of thing. It's all right if you have a little bit of that in there, but you don't want too much of it. As much as possible, you want to be able to turn that energy into fight energy. So you're able to look at it as aggression, as, you know, bring it on. I'm going to take this. I'm going to do this. And it's just two different ways of looking at it. Are you going to be playing offense, or are you running away, playing defense? Okay. Basically, you want to try, when you're aiming at a temporary challenge, you want to make sure that you're playing offense and you're playing it aggressively. So goal selection there is important. So it's like, how hard, you know, if I was going to try and quantify it, should you push yourself? I would say that you want to pick something that you're 80% comfortable with and 20% kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. All right. And so it's that 20% over the line. I think that's where the big growth opportunity lies. That's where, like, any more than 20% over the line, it's probably going to be overwhelming. All right. But 20%, that's enough to really excite your nervous system. That's enough to, you know, really fill you with some fire and really provide you with some intense satisfaction when you accomplish it. But that 20% uncertainty, I would say that's your kind of your Pareto principle for shooting at a temporary challenge. Make it 20%. I don't know if I can do this. Okay. 80%. Yeah, I can do this. Now, this is different from if you're trying to make a real sustainable lifestyle change, okay? With a real sustainable lifestyle change, I think the ratios change up quite a bit, okay? I think you want to be aiming for something in this realm that you can accomplish with, like, you know, 95 to 100% certainty, that you're like really, you feel really pretty good about it. So a lot of times, especially for people who haven't done too much goal setting, or they haven't really, tried too many things, really, they haven't developed too much discipline, they don't really know what 100% or 80% looks like. So that's okay. You're gonna develop this understanding as you do stuff in life, as you try, as you fail, and that sort of thing. But, you know, eventually you got to get to the point where it's like, all right, even if I have a really bad day, I'm completely confident in my ability to get this thing done. That's kind of the line that you want to be thinking at when you're trying to create a real sustainable change, okay? Because ultimately you're trying to create something that you can keep up indefinitely, right? And so obviously you want to be picking things that you can maintain even when life gets really tough. Now, obviously, there's always going to be points where, you know, everything sort of falls apart and you're just overwhelmed, like big stuff will happen. But, you know, I'm just talking in like reasonable, you know, in general, aim for these things that you're very confident you can get done. So let's do some examples. All right. So for me, recently, as I've been saying, I've changed up my gym routine. Okay. And I went from working out 3 times a week to trying to work out 6 days a week. And I've also moved it to working out first thing in the morning after I get up and kind of dress myself and get a little food in me. And so that's a big shift. Okay. But I also wanted it to be a sustainable shift. So how could I make that, get that 100% certainty there? Because I'm really trying to create that, you know, consistency and bring this into my lifestyle. Well, what I did was I just focused on going to the gym, and that's it. And I didn't even worry about the workout program. I didn't worry about the quality of my workout. I didn't worry about, how good I was doing in the gym or anything like that. Like, I knew that the only thing I could focus on if I wanted to maintain compliance with this lifestyle change was just focus on getting there. And so what's happened is that, after a couple weeks of it, I realized, hey, my exercise like intensity and stuff, it was all whacked. It was all off. I was going actually too hard. I'm feeling sore now. And so that's okay because I was still going. And guess what? Normally, when my body's feeling like this, I just wouldn't go to the gym anymore. But since I'm really trying to instill this consistent lifestyle change, guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to give it like 30% effort because I know my body really just needs kind of relax and some blood flow and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to go there and take it easy. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to do that thing I'm trying to instill. So these are the kinds of compromises you have to create sometimes when you're trying to create a real sustainable lifestyle change, is that you're going to have to scale back other elements to make sure you get that anchored piece in place. Okay. The more anchored that a new routine is, the easier it is to tack stuff onto it. So, for me, going from 3 days a week to 6 days a week every day, there was no anchor there. There was no existing routine that existed that I could tack this thing onto. Okay. But when you have an existing routine, you can usually do a little bit more. So let's do another example. All right. Say you wanted to begin meditating. All right. And let's say you've already got a strong morning routine. You tend to get up, you eat, you shower, you plan your day, and then, you go on with it. All right. And you say you do this like every morning and it's pretty consistent. It's pretty easy then to tack on 10 to 15 minutes of meditation or whatever at that point. So you want to always take into context, what am I fastening this onto? Like the more new and the more structurally different a habit is, the more effort it's going to take. So you need to factor that into your calculations for how hard should you push yourself. All right. Now, the next thing to kind of look at in relation to these temporary challenges versus sustainable lifestyle changes is that often you're going to go from one into the other. All right. Usually it's going to go, you're going to enter into a challenge state to create like a big kind of shift. And then you're going to transition into a lifestyle change, a more sustainable state. So some things will naturally follow this pattern. Okay. If you've some things just naturally get easier with time. So if we're talking about that meditating thing, maybe the first time you sit down and meditate, that's just going to be, more hard because you're not used to doing it and it feels really uncomfortable. But after a little while, you get pretty used to that. All right. And it's just going to naturally move from this high stress sort of challenge into something more sustainable. And maybe at first you got to really track your time. You got to make sure that, all right, I'm writing down, I'm writing down on my tracker here that, hey, I did it today. I did it for X amount of minutes, and you're putting all this energy into it. And it's I'm going to keep this up for 30 days. That's great. That's a challenge mode. But eventually, after you get used to it, then you can just kind of go into a maintenance mode where it's I wake up and after I plan my day, I just do a quick little meditation session, and it's easy. It's not hard. I don't time myself or anything, or, it's low stress at that point because you've already built the space for it, right? So that's kind of where it happens rather naturally. But other times you need to do a little bit more planning. So, for example, all right, say you have a bunch of weight to lose, all right? Maybe you're going to have to do a challenge style program at first because you want to try and drop a decent chunk of weight relatively quick, okay? And so maybe you're tracking your calories, you're going more intense at the gym, you've joined an accountability group and that sort of thing, okay? This kind of stuff can really work. There's a lot of, weight loss programs and stuff out there that are designed around creating a lot of accountability with community, intense workouts, all that kind of stuff. And that's good. So many people lose a bunch of weight. But the problem is a lot of people, they don't realize that that's not a sustainable change. And so they complete their little challenge cycle, whatever it is, and then they get all the weight back because they never transitioned into that sustainable change state. Okay. And so this takes a little planning. It's all right, well, this was my challenge mode, but I'm not gonna be able to keep this up forever. I'm not gonna freaking log my calories every day for the rest of my life. Screw that. Right. So it's what does those sustainable changes look like? And often these look a little bit different. These are often more structural and whatnot in terms of, okay, well, these are the foods I buy now and these are the foods I don't. Maybe I do meal prep now. You might have to institute some, more kind of ritualized anchors of that activity into your life. So that's that's one example where you're going to have to really plan out this transition between temporary challenge into a lifestyle change. Another one would be quitting porn. Okay, maybe at first you're gunning for these 90 days. And it's really tough. You're writing in your journal every day. You're interacting with people on a recovery forum. Maybe you're tracking your streak. You're doing all these things. You're putting lots of energy into it, and it's really hard, obviously. But eventually, if you're being successful, you're going to have to transition into other stuff. You're going to have to start focusing more on these other things that fill the time that porn did. Initially, it's like that energy that was spent on porn is automatically being put into the recovery process, is putting into, managing your mind and, working the journal, doing the accountability stuff, all that kind of thing. But as that becomes less of an issue, more energy is going to get freed up. And you have to make sure you do the work to invest that in other places. Otherwise, you're just going to have this dead energy that doesn't have a place or a purpose. And it's very easy if you've got free energy like that, that'll just kind of go back into familiar patterns. Because if you don't consciously tell it where to go, then it will unconsciously go somewhere. And, if it's left to the unconscious, your unconscious will just go, oh, well, we used to run this pattern for 10 years where we would just play video games and jerk off. So, if you're not going to tell me what to do with that, then, hey, we'll do that. So that's where you want to make sure that you're making these lifestyle changes clear and articulated, right? And what I've found is that when you recognize these two different kinds of goal states, you're going to essentially engage in kind of this cyclical growth pattern, this wave pattern where you have this hard push where you're instilling some change, and then the energy drops off a little bit, but like you don't go back down to that same low level. So it's like you start here, say you're a porn addict, all right? Your porn addiction, it's down here. This is where you're functioning, all right? And you go through this intense like reboot phase, all right? And maybe you put a whole ton of effort into it, and you fall off a little bit, and you use a little porn or whatever, and you realize, oh man, I just need to chill a little bit. This is going like way too intensely. And so your energy drops back down, but you still maintain some of that consistency. You still are not going all the way back down to where you were in the past. And so you go at it again. And it's like this leveling up process where you're going up bounce by bounce, okay? And this is pretty much how most change works. And you have to accept the fact that you're not going to be able to just go up in a straight line, okay? That's just not how we work. It's just too inorganic, all right? And that's kind of the key, is learning how to work with your natural rhythm and instead of working against it. And our rational mind, that's the mind we tend to use when we're doing all of our goal setting, it likes to work in straight lines. And so your rational mind needs to understand, hey, you've got emotional limits. Hey, you've got emotional cycles, and learning how to push yourself up to a new plateau. And then, you're going to maybe fall back down a little bit, but not as far. So it's like, you do this big, intense fitness push. Well, make sure that when you do that competition or you do that marathon, you still have a plan. You're still doing something, and you don't revert back to that inactive state that you tried to get away from in the first place. And as long as you're planning this out, you're thinking about it, and you're being intentional, you can make sure that every single cycle you're leveling up, okay? Even if you screw up big time, failure is a necessary part of personal growth and figuring out your limits, all right? You need to know how strong you are. And what that takes sometimes is for you to really push yourself, okay? And you're like, oh crap, I was way stronger than I thought I was. And then sometimes you need to you really push yourself and fail and realize, oh crap, I wasn't nearly as strong as I thought I was. And each one of these experiences, they serve as a data point that goes into your initial planning phase. I've now tried and failed at enough things that I know what's going to be sustainable for me, what's going to be doable and whatnot. And so you just got to get out there and start, getting stuff done. Start learning about you and your own strength. And it's going to really level you up. And the key thing to, I guess, maybe keep track of is if you're doing a temporary challenge, all right, it's okay if you're feeling like it's starting to wear you down a little bit. Just make sure that wearing down point, it lines up with your end point, meaning that like you're going to be able to make it to the end. If not, you're going to maybe have to adjust some things, either scale back the intensity or decrease the duration, because you don't want to just completely bankrupt yourself. That's usually not a good state to be in. All right. But if you are doing this kind of sustainable lifestyle change stuff, the thing you really want to be feeling is that you're getting stronger, that you're getting more confident and more comfortable with it. If you're trying to do a sustainable change and you're just feeling more tired and more drained as you go, that's a pretty good sign that you might have taken on too much, and what you've picked is actually not sustainable. It's more of a challenge state. So that's what I got for you. Hopefully this helps you make some sense of how hard you should push yourself when you're pursuing new goals. But other than that, please let me know what you think. If you got any questions, throw them down in the comments below. Let me know what goals you're setting right now. Are you pushing yourself in any area? Are you trying to make a sustainable change? What's going on with you? Let me know. So, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah, stay sharp. I'll see you in the next one.